Hello and welcome into another episode of Morgan's Pop Talks, breaking down the latest in reality TV and pop culture. Back from a little break, took a family vacay down to Southwest Florida. Oh gosh. If you're from Northeast Ohio, you love Southwest Florida, especially in the last week of October. It was so good. Just get out there in the sun, lay on a beach chair, wash the salt out of my hair, except I didn't actually wash my hair the entire time that I was there because you're on vacation, right? You come back with a healthy glow. Oh, is there anything better? No. There's really nothing better. And, it was a big family trip. Me, my parents, my husband, obviously, my sister, brother-in-law, my two nieces. So it was a full house. And let me tell you, this is how I know that I'm getting old. I don't want to say that. I was about to say because I like family vacations. Right? I've always liked family vacations. Like, don't get it twisted. But, when you're all under one roof, sometimes it can be a lot. And in your early 20s, you're just like, oh, I just want to go do my own thing. Now, as I'm getting older, I just want to spend as much time with my family as I possibly can. I literally moved one street away from my mom and dad, moving into this new house, which was not the plan, by the way, in the city that I grew up in. And if you would have told me, because I kind of bounced around, to the city out there and then like moves a little bit out to the suburbs and I'm way back. I am like suburbia, baby, all the way. If you would have told me 3 years ago even that I would be moving back to the hometown that I was raised up in, I would have been like, are you nuts? Have you lost it? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. This is like a farming community, which no disrespect to the farming community, but I just like to be near a fancy bougie coffee shop at all times. Like I need it as an IV on most days, but now that I'm here, I love it. I love it so much. I love being one street away from my parents. I love going on vacations with my parents, with my sister, with their nieces. Is it chaos? Abso-freaking-lutely. Am I overstimulated? 100% of the time, but I wouldn't have it any other way. And that's how I know I'm getting older. Really looking forward to these family vacations. But yeah, no, it was good. I did get weirdly ill while I was there for like 15 hours. I don't know what it was. I don't think I've ever had food poisoning before, although I don't necessarily know. Okay, this is what happened. My brother-in-law got it first. He's like shivering, heat flashes, not a good situation. We're like, oh no, make sure you stay in your room, whatever. 8 hours later, he comes back out happy as a clam, ready to go, take a dip in the pool, ready to play the pickleball tournament with the retirees that are where we are. Not 3 hours later, I got hit with the bug overnight. Shivers, hot flashes. Nothing was coming out of me, one way or another. Nothing was coming out of me. So I didn't really know if it was food poisoning or not. But again, a couple hours later, I watched the Love is Blind weddings in the bedroom by myself while the rest of my family was at the beach. And then I felt fine. So I don't know. That was kind of weird. Still don't really know what happened, but we're going to get into the Love is Blind weddings. I mean, I know that by the time you're listening to this, a lot of you will have watched the reunion. So of course, we'll talk about that next week. But look, the Love is Blind Netflix people, they just don't care about the Morgan's Pop Talk schedule. Gonna have to phone it in. But let's start with the top three. These are the biggest headlines in reality TV and pop culture. We have to start with the state of the Golden Bachelor. It's in shambles. It's in shambles. I don't think any of us expected it to be here based off, it was such a juggernaut. I don't know why I said that like a French person, but, it just had such a monumental impact. Season 1 and even Joan's season of The Golden Bachelorette to flop this bad is kind of crazy. So this was an article by the U.S. Sun, which, sometimes the U.S. Sun and like the Daily Mail, sometimes I give them the side eye a little bit because I do feel like there's some sensationalism there. It's everywhere, but consider the source. Anyways, so this article says Golden Bachelor producers have been left feeling embarrassed by ratings for the current season and even appear to regret casting Mel Owens as the lead. Less than half of the viewers who tuned into Gary Turner's season to find love have returned to watch Mel. According to Nielsen ratings, the ABC premiere of Mel's season brought in 2.5 million viewers. Gary's 4.4 million. Big difference. Then Mel's second episode dropped to 1.9 million, third episode 1.8 million, and it's just continuing to go down, 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 down. According to a show insider, the studio is, quote, past the point of being upset by the ratings drop and decline of interest. At this point, it's just outright embarrassing. Like they're doing everything they can to revive this franchise from the dead. It might be time to put it to bed for good. But it could get a big revival with future Bachelorette Taylor Frankie Paul. The source added that producers think the failure to deliver this season was due to the miscasting of the lead, Mel Owens. They said he wasn't the right pick, and they see that now, but didn't see it until it was too late. That mixed with overall interest in the franchise dropping, and you have the dismal numbers that the show is left with, and it has brought us to where we are today. I don't know if you guys have been watching The Golden Bachelor. I have, because I recap every episode on Bachelor Tuesday. This week I did a double episode because I had to watch 2 episodes of The Golden Bachelor. And this is a direct quote from The Golden Bachelor coming into hometowns. Okay, there were 5 women left. He's getting down to the final 3. And this was a direct quote for where he was in the process. He's talking about Nicole, one of the women left. Nicole is one of my favorites because she brought me the lemon bars. Period. End of sentence. And that right there sums it up. You know what? There is absolutely no emotional depth to this season of The Golden Bachelor whatsoever. And I said it from the very beginning. I said, I don't feel like this is the vibe of The Golden Bachelor. And there's a ton of layers to the onion here, because you had Gary Turner, who had such a tragic story, a touching story. Everybody was rooting for him for a second chance at love. Now, you can't always go the sob story route. I think the franchise wanted to make it abundantly clear that it wasn't just about that, because there are other stories that deserve to be told, like somebody who maybe never got married and never had kids, or somebody who was in a long-term relationship and then got divorced. So I feel like they were trying to diversify the character arc of a lead. However, I think Mel Owens is far too macho jockey to wear his heart on his sleeve. Felt that way from the beginning, and I thought, well, let's just give it a little bit. Sometimes the process of the show can make people be more vulnerable, and as they continue to fall in love, sometimes they will lean into the experience a little more. I don't really see that with Mel at all. I mean, we had the hometown episode, and you have one of the daughters like, do you love my mom? And he's like, nope. And that's all he says. It's like, okay, come on, we need something here. I mean, that along with the podcast controversy, I'm sure you guys remember. In case you don't, before the season started, he went on a podcast saying he would not date anybody over the age of 60, stay away from artificial hips and wigs. That turned a lot of people off. That turned your target audience off. And I don't think that the podcast comments were necessarily a make or break moment, but I feel like he did have to prove himself early on into the season to kind of turn the tide, and he was not able to do it, in my opinion. So what does that mean for the future of the franchise? I mean, we'll have to wait and see how Taylor Frankie Paul's season goes. They do have a new showrunner involved, Scott Teddy, who did this season of Bachelor in Paradise, which I know a lot of people had a lot of opinions about Bachelor in Paradise. I liked it better than the original Paradise. I was never really a fan of the original Paradise. Early seasons, yes, but it's lulled. It's gotten a little whatever. I don't think they need to make it into a full competition show. That kind of takes away, the authenticity of it. But they're trying, right? They're throwing things at the wall and seeing what sticks. And unfortunately for them, Mel Owens did not stick. I will say the one saving grace of it is that people love the third place runner-up, the woman that got eliminated this past week. I'm not going to tell you just in case you're behind. I would love to see her as the Golden Bachelorette. I think she's great. But they're having a women tell-all this week, and I'm like, what are they going to tell? There was drama about the lemon bars, and that's it. I literally can't remember anything else. So there you have it. All right, headline number 2, we had a Love is Blind wedding this week, but not, I want to say not who you would think. They did not meet on Love is Blind. They were on different seasons of Love is Blind, and then they met on Perfect Match. AD Smith and Ollie Sutherland got married. So AD was on season 6 of the US version of Love is Blind, and then Ollie was on Love is Blind UK's first season. So they were in the same world, but then obviously we know they met on Perfect Match season 3, which is a Netflix dating show. And they've been together ever since. I wasn't deeply invested into Perfect Match. Again, it's one of those where I tried, I really, really did. But like by the 3rd episode, I was so over it. But we all knew that AD and Ollie were together because they posted about their engagement, like a very Instagram-worthy engagement post. And then also we knew that AD was with child, right? She was pregnant. So it kind of spoiled the season of Perfect Match. Now, I did look up, they did not win. I think there was like some drama in their relationship on Perfect Match, but they got 2nd place. But now they're married, and I think they're cute. I think AD is super cute, and I love her and her podcast, and I think she's great. Okay. Last but certainly not least, the Kardashians came back this week, which if you would have said that sentence 6 years ago, it would have been the entire episode. But what I'm really interested, I feel the Kardashians are trying to resurrect their show from the dead, because the past couple of years, in the grand scheme of reality TV, it has been pretty irrelevant, which I know is kind of a harsh word to say when you're talking about the Kardashians, right? Because they are the reality TV family. But when you compare it to shows like Love is Blind or Love Island or, anything else, people just haven't been talking about the Kardashians, and I'll get to why in a little bit, but you just got to give respect where respect is due. I'm going to sit down. I'm going to watch the first episode because it is the Kardashian. They paved the way in the reality TV landscape. And honestly, it's kind of like the same old, same old. Khloe puts the entire show on her back. It should be the Khloe show. Kourtney does not want to be there, doesn't like anybody in her family, doesn't even want to put on heels anymore, which I'm totally a Kourtney in my life when it comes to what I want to wear. It's like, her whole thing in episode 1, she's like, I'm never wearing an outfit ever again. I just want to wear a bomber jacket, and you guys take off the 6-inch stilettos, which I get. I am that person. I will never put the heels on over the Vans. But you can just tell Kourtney does not want to be around any of these people. And then Kim, love her or hate her, the girl did something right. And I do admire, I say this with Taylor Swift too, because I'm not the biggest Swiftie in the world, but I do admire a woman who's able to cultivate an audience and make herself rich, honey. And both Taylor Swift and Kim Kardashian have been able to do that. But Kim is opening up a lot more in the season premiere of the Kardashians, and we see even in the trailer about Kanye West than we have seen in the past. Before I get there, she also has a serious health scare. In the teaser, it talks about her getting an MRI and then telling her family that she had a brain aneurysm. She then explains doctors told her it was caused by just stress, which could be because she's juggling law school, 4 kids, and then her ongoing struggles with her ex, Kanye West. Says to emphasize how stressed she was at the time, she revealed the stress has even caused her psoriasis to flare up again, which she says started during her divorce. So we'll see how that plays out. I know people have been talking about that too, because obviously it's very scary. But people have been questioning, can that happen to stress? Can that happen due to stress? I don't know. Don't look at me. Not a doctor. Not going to have an opinion on it because I don't know the answer. So Kim starts talking about Kanye, admitting, I always felt like I had a little bit of Stockholm syndrome, to where I always felt really bad and always protected and always wanted to help. And like I said, I'm interested as to why Kanye talk is all of a sudden fair game, because for years they've really skirted around it, danced around it. I felt like whenever the Kardashians moved from cable television to streaming on Hulu, they had a conversation that they were going to approach the show in a different way. They had gotten too famous to the point where they didn't want to share every detail of their personal life anymore because of the amount of scrutiny that they face over it, and that killed their show, to be quite honest with you. You know, we for years had tuned into the Kardashians to see them bear it all. I mean, Khloe went through a cheating scandal a day before she gave birth, and then another one with Kylie's best friend and her baby dad. You know, like there used to be so much stuff, and I just feel like it got too much for them to handle, which I don't blame. Like, we can sit here and be like, oh, you should talk about your life. But until you're Khloe Kardashian and you have the entire world in your comment section calling you a clown for giving Tristan Thompson another chance, like, I get how that could be totally overwhelming for somebody to deal with. But now I feel like they're kind of reverting back to that a little bit, at least Kim with Kanye. Now she wants to talk about it. Even with the Call Her Daddy interview, we got a lot more about their co-parenting relationship, about Kanye giving away the Lamborghinis, about how often he sees the kids, a lot more than we ever have in the past like 6 years. And I think there could be a couple different reasons for that. One, she doesn't care about what Kanye thinks or says anymore. You know, there might have been a point in time where she was fearful of how he would react to things. Or, you know, like she said, she was trying to protect her kids from these things, but her kids are growing up. They have the internet. I'm sure they can see. But on the other side of things, I think that Kim knows what it takes to have a successful reality show and being relevant in the reality TV landscape as of October 30th, 2025, you know, and pretending like things don't happen when we all see it play out in the public eye doesn't make for the best show. So if you want to be private, don't do a reality TV show anymore. And I think they've kind of learned that lesson over the past couple of years, ever since they've been on Hulu. And now they're slowly but surely trying to be a part of the conversation again. So we'll see how it goes. All right, let's move on to this week's deep dive. There is so much Dancing with the Stars drama. Like, talk about reality TV. I saw our dear friend Abby Bonadies said that they need a behind-the-scenes Dancing with the Stars television show. I 100% agree, because so much went on this week between Whitney and Mark and this giveaway. Max Chmerkovskiy having some harsh criticisms of Jan Ravnik, and then the Halloween episode, Jen and Jan. You know, it's just been a lot. So we're going to get all into it. Let's start with Mark and Whitney. So last week, Mark Ballas and Whitney Levitt got on their TikTok and said, we are having a giveaway for you. One lucky follower, we're going to pay for you and a friend to fly out to Los Angeles to come to Dancing with the Stars Halloween night, pay for anything and everything you need. Obviously, that got a lot of people excited. People were in the comment section like, oh my gosh, whatever, whatever. Not long after, we get a follow-up video from Whitney and Mark saying, we're sorry, we have to cancel the giveaway. It's totally out of our hands. ABC said that we cannot do it. And I'm like, duh. What were they thinking? Like, and honestly, it's not a Whitney thing. It's a Mark thing. Like, Mark should have known that you can't have an unauthorized giveaway to that extreme. I mean, I know it's not even remotely compatible. I want to say compatible. That's not the word I'm looking for, but I can't think of the word I'm looking for right now. But I did, you know, morning radio for 10 years. And if I got on my social media platform and said, I'm giving away these concert tickets for free, I would be fired immediately. So, and I knew that. There was never a question of like, oh, I'm going to do my own little giveaways and promote myself more and, you know, gain more fandom, whatever. And it's like, I'm just really confused at how that happened. And that led us into Halloween week, where Whitney and Mark went first. And, you know, they're always incredible, but there's been this online criticism that Whitney is too good, that she has too much dance experience. There's theories that Mark only wanted to come back if he was placed with someone like Whitney, which I get it, right? I mean, Whitney is amazing, but it's not her fault that she's dancing. She's doing what she was cast to do. Like, if you want to blame somebody, blame the casting directors for allowing Dancing with the Stars has taken a very different shape, as the years have gone on. And it kind of came back as a resurgence. There was a lull in the Dancing with the Stars history where maybe, it wasn't that interesting because there wasn't a whole lot of good dancers. And now all of a sudden you have people like Alfonso come along. You have Milo. I'm just thinking of people off my head, Charlie D'Amelio, and that kind of gets people a little bit more interested. I think Whitney Leavitt right now is getting the Chandler Kinney treatment, which if you watched Dancing with the Stars last year, Chandler Kinney, Disney star, was a phenomenal dancer. So good from week 1 all the way up until the finale, but she didn't win. Both by far the best dancers of their seasons, but flying a little too close to the sun because people like underdogs. Whitney is always getting 9s and 10s, winning the dance-off, which, by the way, Alex Earle should have won the dance-off. We all agree about that, right? Right. It's only going to make people less inclined to vote for Whitney and Mark when they just stay at the top. Dancing with the Stars is all about peaking at the right time. Whitney will make it far, I believe, probably to the finale, but I don't know if she's necessarily going to win Dancing with the Stars because when you have your wow moments too early into the season, there's no way for you to surprise the audience anymore. And when you see good dance after good dance after good dance, it is what it is. And it's not to say that her dances are getting any worse. Like I said, she's a phenomenal dancer, but I want you to think about someone like Dylan Efron, right? He's not consistently getting the highest scores of the night, but when he has a wow moment, you remember it. And I almost feel like people vote for moments more than they vote for a particular dancer or a particular dance or even a couple. I mean, think about the moments that you were like, wow, that made you vote for them. Elaine with the trust fall. You guys remember that? You remember Joey and Jenna doing the Tarzan dance, like behind his back. Daniela standing on top of Iman Shumpert's shoulders. Those are the things that we remember that make you go, wow. And when you have those moments from week 1 until week 8, you're just no longer at the top of people's mind. And if you're not at the top of people's mind, they might not be inclined to vote as much for you. Do you get what I'm saying? And like I said, it really reminds me of Chandler Kinney, who was by far the best dancer. But because there were no more wow moments, because we had seen it all by the time we got to the finale, Joey, who steadily grew over the season, ended up winning. So that's just kind of my hot take. Best dance of the night, in my opinion, was definitely Alex Earle. And I have had to come correct to Alex Earle on multiple occasions. As of right now, I really misjudged her. I was not familiar. I mean, I knew Alex Earle was huge on TikTok, but I was kind of judgmental about her. I never had followed her on TikTok. I didn't really understand why she had such a big following, why people were so enamored with her content. I never really got it. And even at the beginning of the season, I'm going to be completely honest, and I am having to eat my words. I said at the beginning of the season, when David and I would watch it behind closed doors, like, I don't think she has much of a personality. I was so wrong. I was so wrong about her. And she is making me eat my words. And I think she could win. Because, like I said, is she consistently good? Yes, but she does have these like, oh my gosh, wow moments that really make you remember her. The Maleficent dance was incredible. Her and Val crawling around in the dirt, on Halloween night. Those are the type of moments that make you want somebody to win. And I loved vintage Val, bringing back the tears, bringing back fights with the pros. Loved it. Highest scores of the season, in my opinion, deserved. And like I said, she should have won the dance-off. So let's talk about Max and Jan becoming a big topic of conversation this week. So in case you don't know, Maxim Chmerkovskiy, he used to be Dancing with the Pros Dancing with the Pros, Dancing with the Stars pro. He's married to Peta, who also was on the show, and Max's younger brother is Val. So Max and Peta, very, very in the Dancing with the Stars circle. They have a podcast, they're husband and wife. They have a podcast where they recap the Dancing with the Stars episodes. And last week, Max had some very harsh criticisms of new pro, Jan Ravnik. He did say it wasn't Jan's fault, but he said Jan has no business being a pro on Dancing with the Stars, zero foundation, technique, quality, understanding of the partnership. He says he has no idea what a foxtrot is supposed to look like. How do you expect him to teach it? And then Peta said Jen has had a major disadvantage this season. So that obviously sparked a lot of conversation online. Is he right? Do you feel that way about Jan? You know, and we'll get into that a little bit. I don't want to get ahead of myself. But when it came time for Jen and Jan to dance this week, they referenced those comments a lot without ever saying like, screw Max Chmerkovskiy. You know what I mean? Like, first of all, they're dancing to Look What You Made Me Do. Jen is like, oh, there's all this noise behind the scenes. And then, you know, Derek, when he was giving them feedback, was like, you're doing great for your first season. They did a contemporary, which is technically not ballroom. So, you know, it should have been one of Jan's better dances if Jan isn't as seasoned as a ballroom dancer as the rest of them are. And they got all 8s. The Dancing with the Stars fandom isn't having it in the comments, saying that they are too harsh on Jen. I talked about this on my page yesterday. I think the comments can be too harsh when you hear it a lot. You know what I mean? I feel like every time Jen got up there and was receiving feedback from the judges, it was over and over and over and over and over again the same thing. Comments can be harsh. I don't think the scores were. I personally think that giving her the 8s were the correct score. I mean, look, we can be as mad about it as we want, but there are 4 professional dancers that are all giving her an 8. Like, I think they probably know a little bit better than we do. But the problem is that the Dancing with the Stars scoring system has created such a bottleneck, such a funnel, because they refuse to score people lowly. If you are giving Andy a 7, okay, and we all know that Andy, he's getting better, but I don't need to say it. You guys know. If you're giving Andy a 7 and you're giving, you know, I think of Robert Irwin's Wicked Night Dance, which was like one of my favorite dances. And I was so shocked that he didn't get a 10. If you give that 9 and Andy a 7, where do you leave Jen? Because her dance was not as bad as Andy's, but it was not as good as Robert's. So now you're only scoring people at a 7, 8, 9, or 10 for the rest of the season. Where earlier in the season, you should have been starting people at 2, 3, 4, 5, what they used to do, okay? Because there's just this major discrepancy now. And it's been this debate that fans have been having because the judges now judge on the individual dancer's ability. Not everybody is starting at square one and you get better scores as you go. It's what they think their best potential can be, which is not fair because everybody's best potential is something completely different, which is why the judges' scores are completely irrelevant. Completely irrelevant. So it's like, even if Max is right and Jan doesn't know ballroom, what does it really matter? Because it all comes down to the fan vote anyways, when the couples are anywhere between 1 to 6 points away from each other. Like, it's not that big of a discrepancy. So Max, his comments were the talk of the town beforehand, and especially after Jen and Jan got eliminated. So Val is Mark's brother. He's partnered with Alex Earle this season. He was asked about it. He said, I love my brother. That's my best friend. I always got his back. You don't have to like what he said. I don't have to agree with what he said, but I'm always going to stand up for him. He also said, I am not my brother. I think Jan did an amazing job. I talked to Jan. He said, Jan did better than I did. My first season, I was eliminated second. So Jen should be proud to have been partnered with him. And then Jan was asked about it. And he says, I have no comment on that. I got all the love from the show, from the pros to the judges, whoever is on the outside trying to stay relevant and spreading the hate. This is not a way to do it. I will never spread and take the hate. Okay. When it comes to Max's comments about Jan, here's the thing. Us fans, we don't know ballroom. Like, we might think that we know ballroom because we've been watching Dancing with the Stars. We think we know what a foxtrot is supposed to look like. But truth be told, if we were to judge a professional dance competition on a proper foxtrot technique, foot placement, hold placement, we would have no idea, right? You know who would have an idea? Max and PETA. So it is his opinion. But I think the bigger issue isn't if Jan Ravnik is 100% solid in all the ballroom technique. The issue is, as a viewer, I really didn't get to know Jan this season of Dancing with the Stars. And I think the personal connection is one of, if not the most important thing when it comes to Dancing with the Stars. Hello, Andy Richter. Hello, Andy Richter. And I'm not saying it's Jan's fault either. I mean, how much of his personality can they show when him and his partner get maybe 5 minutes of a whole 2-hour episode? Their packages can only be so long when they're dancing. It's not like they're speaking to us, right? But I just feel like as an audience gets to know Jan better, hopefully in other seasons of Dancing with the Stars, he'll grow more of a fan base, and I think people will be more inclined to vote for him and whoever his partner will be in the future. All right, last but certainly not least, let's get into final thoughts. We got to talk about the Love is Blind weddings, which I know you probably have all watched the reunion by now because there are some major questions that need answered. A baby. Does Sparkle Meghan have a baby? After all that, we'll get into it. I kind of want to go in chronological order of how these weddings went down on the last episode. Let me tell you the absolute joy that I felt when I logged onto Netflix, clicked Love is Blind, and saw that the finale was only an hour and 4 minutes. Oh my gosh, I was so happy. They're normally like an hour and 45, and the wedding episodes are the worst, aren't they? We just skip, I always fast forward until they're just at the altar, but I watched this episode twice just for you guys. But anyways, so before we get to the weddings, we have the shortest bachelorette sequence of all time, right? Like the bachelor and the bachelorette parties were 5 seconds long. And it's mainly the women's friends planting seeds of doubt in their mind. You know, you have Ally's friends who say, do you really want to marry a truck driver? I don't know about you, but I wanted to deck some of Ally's friends. And I'm not even like an Anton stan, but I was just like, wow, the boldness that some of you guys have to say these types of things on global television is kind of crazy. And then you have Anton. Ally and her friends are like, oh, if he's a truck driver, I cannot marry someone who's a truck driver. And then you have Anton's like, yeah, she doesn't cook or clean up after herself. She leaves the place a mess, but I love her and I'm going to marry her. You know, it's like, geez, couldn't be more different. But I was also like thinking to myself, does production tell these people to lie on their wedding day? Because between KB and Ally being like, I love him, I love him, I love him, and then getting to the altar and saying, no, you don't love him. What are you talking about? Especially Ally. I mean, the things that she said about Anton at the altar, I was like, she does not love this man. So why did you tell Anton's poor mother, I love him? I love him. No, you don't. Anton wasn't lying. He told his mom, I'm a little worried. I don't know what's going to happen up here. I think she might say no. And that's exactly what happened. I mean, when the doors opened and Ally started walking down the aisle, it was written all over her face that she was saying no. The girl looked like she's about to hurl everywhere. Can't say that I blame her. I probably would too. We get down there. Anton says, I do. Ally, long pause. We all know long pause means no, but she says, I can't be your wife. the person I fell in love with in the pods isn't the person I've gotten to experience in real life. So you don't love him. Like, if you're saying you're not the person that I fell in love with, like, do we have to spell it out? It made me mad too, kind of, when Olly was like, I don't like what he eats. I'm like, huh? There's so many other things that are important. And look, if the drinking was too much of a situation, like, I'm fine. Like, yeah, if you don't want to marry somebody that drinks that much, I get it. But like, he doesn't eat healthy. Am I crazy? Like, that just seems like a wild reason. I know it's not the only reason, but it is something that she said. So then we get to KB and Edmond, and again, writing on the wall with KB and Edmond. And the hero in this story, in the KB and Edmond story, is Mrs. Welch. Oh my gosh. We need Miss Welch to be the Time Person of the Year. Please, somebody get her on the phone. What an angel, because Edmond's mom didn't show up to his wedding day, but Miss Welch did. She walks him down the aisle. She's there to console him when his heart is broken into. And I thought I was about to be duped. You know, you come into this episode, you think there's absolutely no way that KB is going to say yes to Edmond at the altar. And then again, they get to the altar. I love you so much, my baby. I love you. I love you. You are perfect. You know, he ends up saying yes. She says, I'm so sorry. She's crying. I'm not 100%. That doesn't mean I don't love and accept you. She tells him later, it's because I couldn't figure it out. I couldn't figure it out. So that was my answer. And then behind closed doors, she says I would have been miserable. So, you know, I couldn't figure it out and I would have been miserable, to me, are two different things. And I'm not coming at the women, because I think at the end of the day, both of the women made the right decision. And I know some people are upset with KB that she made it to the altar. They're like, that was intentional to just embarrass Edmond. I don't think that's true. I'm going to believe what she says, where she says, you know, I was trying to figure it out and maybe she didn't figure it out until that moment. And I know Edmond is not perfect. I know that he has a lot of maturing to do. The way that he handled conflict in that relationship was not good at all. But as I was watching this episode back, I honestly felt like it was an irresponsible casting decision to put Edmond on this TV show. I genuinely felt like that. Whenever, and I get it, there's a fine line, but I found it to almost be exploitative of his circumstance, his upbringing, the fact that he clearly still has some trauma that he needs to work through. You know, that's been the overall consensus from the fans, is that, you know, I've seen it a lot. And in my opinion, I mean, I don't know. The comment all the time that you see when it comes to Edmond is he needs to go to therapy. That's what you always see, which I'm not here to tell somebody what they need to do or whatever. But like I said, there are some maturity differences between Edmond and KB. But hearing him say things like, nothing is ever going to work out for me. This was my last chance. You know, I just felt bad. I felt bad. And I feel like he's an easy target for people to go online and make fun of, like, take the pick out of your hair for your wedding day, Edmond, please. But I can't explain to it in more words than what I already have, of just feeling like maybe this was not the best decision. And maybe whoever did decide to cast Edmond didn't know the depth, you know, of emotional trauma that he had to deal with. And like I said, that does not excuse the temper tantrums that he has thrown in the past. If I were KB personally, I would have walked away after the Baja situation. But again, everybody was drunk as a skunk in Baja. So it's like, do you give somebody another chance after a blow up like that? She did. And that is where it led them. I always worry about, for some reason, I worry about Love is Blind contestants' mental health more than anybody else's. And I worry about Edmond specifically, but I also think that him getting fan and love and attention will be beneficial for him as well. Like, internally, he'll like that. But I said this on my pages too, like, when I was watching KB and Edmond's wedding, I feel like I was watching somebody who just wanted to be loved and accepted. And I felt bad for him. I did. Gotta say. They should not have get married. I cannot be any more clear, but I felt bad. Okay, let's move on. Last but not least, to Jordan and Megan. We knew Jordan and Megan weren't going to make it to the altar because there was absolutely no footage of them there. So when we got the B-roll shot of it outside their apartment, we're like, we see the writing on the wall. We know what is going to happen. And again, Megan sits there and says, we don't eat the same things. And he's like, so what? What difference does that make? You're telling me we're not compatible because we don't have the same palate? It's like crazy. And she's like, no, it's not about that. It's about the concessions I would have to make in my current lifestyle to settle down with a single father. I'm rich. I want to go wherever I want. I want to play tennis at 10 a.m. on a Wednesday. It's like, girl, play tennis. Who's stopping you? If Sparkle Megan had that much money to go play tennis at any given time, 10 a.m. on a Wednesday, do you think she had enough money for Jordan not to work anymore? If that's the case, did they ever discuss that? And was Jordan maybe not willing to have her be the breadwinner? These are all questions that I hope are asked and addressed at the reunion, because I feel like there were solutions to that particular instance if Megan has all the money that she says she does. But we didn't get a whole lot of conversation about things like that, about whether or not Jordan would continue working or not, or what that would look like in their relationship dynamic. Jordan is like, why did you choose me in the pods? And she said, I just didn't understand the depths of which things would go. And I respect her for not going to the aisle if she knew that, or to the altar if she knew that beforehand. Good on you for ending it before then. Jordan says, I wish I didn't introduce her to my son and she doesn't love me for me. And he says, I think if I had all the money in the world, Megan and I would still be together. I don't think that he's wrong. Is he wrong? I mean, when we boil down their breakup, what does it come down to? Is it really the fact that Jordan can't play tennis on Wednesday mornings? Or is it that, having a stepson would complicate her get up and go wherever she wants lifestyle? And, Megan says, maybe I'm not cut out to be a stepmom. And it has me questioning if I'm cut out to be a mom in general. And now you're telling me that Sparkle Megan has a secret baby? Did I hear that correctly on the internet, in the streets, in the DMs, that Sparkle Megan now has a baby? Is it Jordan's baby? Whose baby is it? Are they still together? In my wildest dreams, what I would love to happen is that Sparkle Megan and Jordan tell us at the reunion that, oh, by the way, we got back together. We realized that we wanted to be together. We fell in love. We're still in love. And we had a baby. Could that be the outcome? Or does it just have to be the random bald guy that we saw holding the baby on the side of the road? I don't know who that man is. Hopefully they're going to tell us. Hopefully they did tell us by the time you listen to it. And honestly, I like Jordan. I like Megan. I don't think either of them are bad people. I feel like they could have worked out had they just had some of those harder conversations, but maybe they did and we just weren't privy to them. So we'll see, and we'll dive into the reunion next week. If you guys want more, make sure you check out the Survivor Patreon tier, the Bravo Patreon tier, the Bachelor Patreon tier. We are full steam ahead. Pop culture 24/7, 365, all around the clock. So subscribe, patreon.com/Morgan's Pop Talks. If you have not left a review, a little 5-star boop boop, a little love you like a sis. If you're going to BravoCon, send me a DM. I would love to meet as many of my listeners as possible out there. Can't wait. The countdown is officially on. We're 2 weeks away from going to Vegas, so can't wait. But if not, I'll see you next week. And as always, love you like a sis.